I don't want to fuck Ronald Reagan, but I do want to create an effect with my work as J.G. Ballard does with his writing. This is the title of a pamphlet written in the style of a scientific paper detailing an apocryphal series of bizarre experiments intended to measure the psychosexual appeal of Ronald Reagan. Language, text, literature, and their limitations and possibilities have as much, if not more, impact than images. Taken in isolation, out of context, and misappropriated, certain words can take on a kind of textual sculpture, a visual language independent of meaning. American Psycho is a rhythmic, relentless rampage through the vacuity of Patrick Bateman, the delusional psychotic protagonist's life. It uses uncompromising language and subject matter, torture, rape, mutilation, cannibalism, and necrophilia, and is very, very funny. The critic Elizabeth Young, a proponent of transgressive literature, describes it beautifully as an indictment of the anorexic soul of the 80s. Unusual for a critic to write so poetically. If Brian Sewell could write like that, I'd even let him go down on me. Chuck Palahniuk is a master of that rhythmic, unremitting quality. This may be a fairly tame extract, but Guts, a chapter in his novel Haunted, has the power to induce nausea and repulsion. So far, 73 people have fainted at book readings of this chapter. But it's not all about trauma and nausea, though trauma and nausea have their place in art. Through the manipulation of language and structure, literature can bypass social convention and habitual thought processes, our established ways of thinking and normalized responses, if you like. In Ulysses, James Joyce records a stream of consciousness but combines this with an intensely formal schematic structure. Again, that unrelenting, pulsating style and obsessive focus on detail. It is arguably over-systemized, but this enhances the hypnotic cadence. There is value in transgression as a literary and artistic tool. Knowledge or enlightenment, whatever they may be, can be found at the edge of experience, and more often than not, the site for gaining knowledge is the body. Moreover, there is a glorious freedom in moral trespasses, with Naked Lunch, which tears through drug addiction, sadism, and paedophilia, but although it is a narrative, albeit non-linear, it has no plot as such. Structure is everything yet meaningless. We circle temporality. Jake Chapman, a transgressive visual artist himself, writes beautifully too. Talking about Pierre Guillotin's Eden, 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 the sentence is as clever and poetic as anything he's made. The visceral anatomy of the skinless text is flayed of the comfort of personal pronouns. Guillotin's text must be the most transgressive and relentlessly bleak of its kind. Subversive and uncompromisingly desolate, it is a sentence lasting 6,762 lines. Undisturbed by the closure of a single full stop, he takes our minds to the brink of annihilation. But does writing this extreme desensitize us? Is there a fine line between effect and anesthetization that Guillotin crosses? Roland Barthes may talk of the death of the author, but he almost destroys his own argument as he writes so evocatively himself. Language is a skin. I rub my language against the other. My language trembles with desire. Textual porn for the intellect. Yes, language is frustratingly limiting, as is painting, sculpture, film, but there are still pockets of wonder and originality that seem to transcend these limitations. I struggle to isolate what it is about this sentence that makes me want to cry, but I want to keep trying to isolate it. Pathos, regret, ambivalence, humour, simplicity, lack, absence. Maybe because there is no God, I am enthralled to the written word instead. George Bataille knows the power of text and language and its potentially subversive qualities. If, as he says, literature is in fact religion's heir, then the potential of literature to pervert is manifest. To Bataille, evil, as it appears in Wuthering Heights, has reached its most perfect form, as if evil were the most powerful means of exposing passion. Emily Bronte is not using the language of Ellis or the structure of Burroughs, but she can easily match them in terms of transgression. Catherine and Heathcliff's love destroys when terror and horror prevail, and yet this is life-affirming stuff. This is about living life with an intensity and the full knowledge and acceptance of death. They are indomitable figures. Choose life, choose a job, choose a career, choose a family, choose a fucking big television, choose washing machines, cars, compact disc players and electrical tin openers, choose good health, low cholesterol and death insurance, and so on and on and on. But again, that pulse, beat, tenacity. Irvin Welsh is also a DJ and says he wanted to capture the excitement of house music in his books, and that the best way to do this is to use a language that was rhythmic and performative, like the best music that temporarily removes us from ourselves. Hugh Selby Jr., like Burroughs, was the subject of obscenity trials, but here writes the most exquisite and affecting of sentences without a hint of transgression, just stripped down, bare, blunt prose. In his words, I write in part by ear. I hear as well as feel and see what I am writing. There is a language beyond reason. I would argue that language that truly affects has to go beyond reason. There may be nothing original left to say, but the way we say it through style, structure, content and context is up for grabs.